Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix. Welcome to Design Byte, where I talk about a single game design feature and how it impacts a game positively or negatively. Today's game I'll be talking about is the critical darling Cuphead. And would you look at that, I just recently did a review on the game. But okay, self-promotion aside, Cuphead has gained notoriety for its intense difficulty. Which, okay, it may be difficult for some, but the game definitely gives you small tools to help you overcome that challenge. And one tool that you may not think about at first is one that you see in various action, fighting, and boss rush games. Well, sorta. And that's this bar, which I'd like to call the progress bar. The progress bar in Cuphead does one simple thing. It tells you how far you made it in the boss fight or a certain level. Okay, you probably knew that already, but how does that relate to difficulty here? Well, in my mind, difficulty can be boiled down into a couple of different key elements. Not all games are the same kind of difficult, and certain games combine these elements to make a certain challenge. For example, some games require the difficulty of precision, aiming at just the right spot with pinpoint accuracy. This tests the player in certain competencies, such as hand-eye coordination. But some other elements of difficulty aren't necessarily as clear as precision. In Cuphead, one of the elements it tests difficulty-wise is the player's resolve, and it does that through its frustration factor. Basically, a player has a certain level of tolerance for a game before they say enough is enough. For some, that tolerance is high, and for others, it's not so much. Now, here's the thing. That tolerance level is based on a variety of other factors and is unique to each player, but it does exist. And in my mind, there are two elements of that the progress bar helps with. The idea of learning through your attempts and seeing the end of the road. Let's start with the learning idea here first. So you attempt a boss and find yourself failing, coming to this screen. One of the first things you see is the position of Cuphead in comparison to the line, giving you a precise idea of how far you made it in comparison to the length of the fight. You get specific markers as well to tell you which phase of the fight you're on. The bar is designed visually specifically so you can easily remember where Cuphead was on the screen. It keeps things simple color-wise with no excess information on the sides or labels or anything like that. So, when you fail again in the next fight, you know if you instantly made progress or not in the fight if the value between where the Cuphead was and where he is now is significant. Specifically, there are going to be instances where Cuphead is pretty close to where he was originally, but that's purposeful as well, to account for possible luck and randomization. So when it's close, you may not necessarily have made progress skill-wise or strategy-wise in the whole, but if you can really notice a difference, then yeah, you probably did. The information is key for understanding if your current strategy is working or not in those phases. If you find yourself stuck at a certain phase, for example, then you may need to change up your tactics. The game gives you a hint through its repetition and through this data point, and it's up to you to determine whether or not you use it. Cuphead in particular has this dragon fight where I used this bar to realize that something was going wrong with the last phase of the fight. I eventually realized I needed to be more passive because, well, I wasn't getting anywhere. And then when I decided to be more passive, I made significant progress and finally won. Now, that may seem like a no-brainer to you design-wise, and as I mentioned, you see the progress type bar in boss rush games a lot, although it usually comes in the form of a health bar. If the boss has 20% health left, you know how much you have to go in terms of the fight. Yeah, he may have some additional defenses and everything, but you have an idea of how far you have to go in order to kill him. But the difference between Cuphead and those games is that the bar here is only shown to you after the fight is done, and that's rather important in this case. See, here's the thing about Cuphead's combat. It doesn't want you to rush or get into a situation where you're panicking for no good reason. The combat here is deliberate. You can't use all your skills at once, and you can't use the remainder of your health to tank the damage and go all out on a boss. Your health bar is too low for this condition. And so, you need to always keep in mind every single bullet or attack that the game throws at you. Because of that, you need to throw away any distractions as I mentioned in my review. You need to focus on the threats in a priority order. Want proof of that? Notice the lack of UI in the game. You could have had an element in which you were always shown your active weapon, for example. But no, it only shows you when it changes, when you need to know. The health bar for you could have been bigger, but no, it's big enough so you can notice it, but it doesn't take away from the battle. And that leads us to the idea of putting the progress bar as a health bar for the boss in this case. In Cuphead's case, it should be obvious that knowing what's coming is the biggest concern. Again, you've got different audio levels depending on the threat as I mentioned in the review. You got different visual signs. Almost everything the gameplay is centered around is that notification for you to get out of the way. Other games have this, of course, but unlike other games in the genre, you've got no way to recover if you make a mistake here health-wise. You got no health packs, you got nothing like that. You basically have to take it and hope for the best. So the thing is, with this combat, what purpose would the health bar serve? Well, it would serve some. I did say that you can't go all out aggressive here, but you could use your super to take a chunk off the boss. In the right circumstance, that could get you through a particular section you're having trouble with, or completely take out the boss, knocking him out. But other than that, it just serves as something else for you to look at, in a game where speed and quick reactions are key. Which, as I've shown earlier, may not be the best thing for the developer to do at this point with this playstyle. That's why as a developer, you've got to consider every element of your gameplay before you add a simple feature like this, and look at it from all angles. It's easy to fall into the trap of standards, that people expect X feature in a game like this. Studio MDHR, however, maximized the best of both worlds here. And this leads me to one other point. You can help difficulty in a game without reducing the skill level required. To me, this makes the game more accessible for certain types of players, but doesn't hit that other element of skill, which is what people are usually referring to as the standard definition of difficulty. This is something I feel has been lost in the conversation about Cuphead. Nothing about this bar makes the player need less skill to take out a boss. Okay, maybe in information processing, I guess, but when it comes down to it, the boss is still beaten by recognizing patterns, forming your own pattern, and executing it. That's one of the things I want you to take away from this video. Again, in the modern day climate of games journalism, indicating a game needs to be accessible means to some that it has to dumb itself down. In some cases, yes, that is what the games journalist is basically saying. In some cases, however, where the word accessibility is used, it's talking about things like color blindness options. And sometimes, it's that or mechanics like I just talked about. So when people want to discuss issues like this, those like Ian Hamilton, who specializes in it, first listen to what they have to say before you react. Several of those voices aren't trying to take away your difficult games, but they want to find alternative ways to make a game more appealing to others through alternative mechanisms such as this. Your skill level is kept, it's just that, well, for some, other elements that would stop them are now avoided, and they experience what you're experiencing in several cases. And let's face it, sometimes you just don't see that element when you're developing, and when you get someone else to present it, you think it's a brilliant idea and yet keeps the core of the game safe. Anyway, that's it for this Design Byte. It's designed to be short and to the point, which is completely different from everything else I do on this channel. Let me know what you think of this series is worth continuing in the comment section below, along with what you think of Cuphead. Anyway, next will be a critical eye, whether it's on What the Hell Holy Potatoes or on the Mummy Demastered, which I received a code for. Unsure at this point. Anyway, I'll see you next time, and as always, keep on gaming.